Demons, the tanar'ri, the chaotic evil fiends from the infinite layers of the abyss. They care not for order, for obedience to authority figures, or to rules of law and morality. They simply do what they want for their own pleasure's sake. They are embodiments of chaos, valuing the freedom to do what they want when they want, giving in to their primal impulses. They are also manifestations of evil, gaining sick pleasure from torture, the forceful domination of others, eating creatures that are still living so that they can taste their fear, and other debased acts of selfish pleasure. They love to destroy and devour anything they can, and they only work with you if you are useful to them and they aren't bored yet. Who knows when or if they will betray you? You can never predict what a demon might do. All I know is whatever they want can't be good. In order to start talking about demons, we must first discuss the names and the species of different demons. You'll see what I mean in a second. In first edition, demons are just demons, not much more to it. In second edition, all demons are called tanar'ri, demon being the colloquial term developed by mortals, and tanar'ri being the actual name for the species, the term that learned scholars, the demons themselves, and other outsiders would use. May Helm protect the clueless who calls a tanar'ri a demon to their face. In third edition, it introduced the idea that there are different species of demons, the tanar'ri just being the most widespread one. So the tanar'ri are the most common demon. This is the traditional demon that you think of. If you open up the monster manual and you flip through, almost all of those are going to be tanar'ri. The Bargura, the Balor, all of those are tanar'ri. These are the ones that are formed from chaotic evil souls that are sent to the abyss. Or, alternatively, they can also spring up naturally from the abyss. All of those are tanar'ri. The other types are made under very specific circumstances, or they aren't made at all. So, speaking of which, the next one is the Oberiths, or the Obiriths. I couldn't find a pronunciation guide for them. These are primeval demons from eons past, and there are very few of them left. Their numbers are extremely small. If tanar'ri embody the evil of the abyss, the Oberiths embody its chaos. They predate the gods, and thus their forms are alien. Their bodies are not just ugly and horrific, but their forms are simply wrong. Everything about them was unnatural and incorrect. They were an affront to all five senses. They are closer to basal organisms such as insects and cephalopods, although some of them have adopted humanoid forms, but they seem more like coincidences or cruel attempts at mockery than anything else. Creatures must make a save when first seeing them or go mad. Chaotic evil outsiders are immune to their madness. Examples of Oberiths include Pazuzu, Dagon, and Pale Knight. Another species of demon are the Lumara. These are the most recent addition to the demons. The only known types of Lumaras are the Daibuk, the Gwekubus, and the Manito. They are incorporeal demons that possess people and objects. They are formed from the fragmenting dreams of dead gods found in the 230th layer, the Dreaming Gulf. The last type of demon, if it can really be called a type, are the Created. Some powerful beings build demons from other demons or from the raw matter of the abyss itself. These demons can be constructs like retrievers, undead like blood fiends, or even truly living outsiders like brood swarms, but they aren't spontaneous creations of the abyss, they are engineered. In 4th edition, you have the same, three main species of demons. There is some extra lore added to the Oberiths that I will explain in a minute, and there's also the lore added that there are only 12 Oberiths in existence. In 5th edition, there is no direct mention of tanar'ri, Oberiths, or Lumara. However, there is a Daibuk stat block, which is a type of Lumara, in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, there is a Sibriex, which is a type of Oberith. So they clearly exist, but 5th edition never uses the terms tanar'ri, Oberith, or Lumara. So this might seem a little confusing, but in 2nd edition, tanar'ri is just another word for demon, while in 3rd, 4th, and technically 5th edition, tanar'ri is just a species of demon. All tanar'ri are demons, but not all demons are tanar'ri. However, 99% of demons are tanar'ri, and most of the lore that's talking about demons is probably talking about tanar'ri. We don't really know much about Oberith or Lumara culture because there's just not that much lore on them as they were introduced later. So for the sake of simplicity, assume that anytime I'm talking about demon psychology, demon culture, demon physiology, etc., that I am talking about tanar'ri. Also, anytime I'm discussing 2nd edition, I will use the term tanar'ri and demon interchangeably, since in that edition, they meant the same thing. I will also be discussing different classifications of demons. I might use the terms Type 5 demon, or lesser tanar'ri, or true tanar'ri. I will give explanations onto what those mean in my next video on the hierarchy of the abyss, but if you are confused by this video and you don't want to wait, I will put them in a comment below. Now let's go on to the origin of demons. So 1st, 2nd, and 5th edition don't really give any origin stories as to like where they came from, but 3rd and 4th do. So for 3rd edition, as far as we know, the Oberisks have always existed in the abyss, but some from Gehenna and Hades believe that they, along with a proto-race of ancient Praetorians, were created by the Baranaloths. The first tanar'ri were created from mortals whose souls went to the abyss, and were cultivated by the Queen of Chaos, which was a particularly powerful Oberith. Although Fiendish Codex 1 seems to imply that the tanar'ri were created by the Oberiths in general, and not specifically the Queen of Chaos, but either way, the first of these was Demogorgon, but the Queen viewed him as broken and flawed, tossing him aside to work on better forms. More and more of these tanar'ri were created, and the Oberiths called upon their greatest flesh warpers, the Sybriacs, to adjust and transform them more. Eventually, they became powerful enough to rival the Oberiths. The Oberith population dwindled as they fought the battle against Law and Good, eventually being pushed back by the fairy queen Morwell of the Eladrin Court of Stars. During this battle, the tanar'ri revolted. Eventually, the Eladrin were pushed out of the abyss, and the tanar'ri were the dominant species on this plane, with the Oberiths being extremely small in numbers. 4th edition, it's a little different. The Oberiths were actually from another multiverse, a dimension that was dying due to their hunger. To ensure their species would live, they tricked the god Tharizdun to plant a seed of evil in his multiverse. They wanted him to plant it in the Astral Sea, but he feared the gods would retaliate, so he put it in the elemental chaos instead. This created the abyss, and allowed the Oberiths to invade and take over this new world. Tharizdun was given much more power from the Shard of Evil than they expected, and was not under their control. So Tharizdun and the Oberiths fought for rulership over the Abyss for eons, and Tharizdun called forth the first tanar'ri from the Abyss itself to aid in this battle. So in 4th edition, Tharizdun created the first tanar'ri from the Abyss itself, whilst in 3rd edition, the Oberiths created the first tanar'ri from the souls of mortals. Now let's move on to the psychology of demons. 1st edition says that demons will never willfully serve anyone. If forced to serve through magic, they will continually seek a way to slay their master. Those the demons show a liking to are typically carried off to the demon's plane to become a slave, although a favored one. In 2nd edition, well, 2nd edition has the most lore on this, as 2nd edition tends to do. Unlike devils who are motivated by the allure of power and tempt mortals into intellectual evils such as pride, ambition, and subversion, demons are motivated by insane, violent inner drives. They tempt mortals into crimes of passion and vice, evils of appetite. Less intelligent tanar'ri often attack without question and fight until slain. True and greater tanar'ri roam the astral and ethereal planes, driven ceaselessly to seek fresh victims. To quote the Slaa'i demonologist Zanzost, they're children of chaos, same as the Slaa'i, but they've got an added dimension to their character, that of unmitigated evil. They're completely shaped by their own will, driven by bursts of creativity and manic insight, filled with impotent rage against the multiverse that cares nothing for them." End quote. Chaos is not stupidity. Demons do hatch complex schemes spanning centuries. What makes them chaotic is that they don't work together. They don't build for future generations or for the good of the race. They focus only on themselves and on increasing their own power. They say there are 3 ways to do business with the tanar'ri. The first is through sheer strength. If they fear annihilation from you, they will listen. The second is to play the tanar'ri off against each other or to pay outrageous bribes that they might not hold firm. And the third way to do business with them is to make yourself useful to one of the true tanar'ri with a stronghold and the power to enforce a passive safe conduct. Tanar'ri do their duty only if they might get caught. Bribes work, but who knows how long they'll keep up their end. Tanar'ri fear their lords, but they aren't loyal. Offer one power or revenge, and it might turn stag. If you insult a Batazu or a Yugoloth, you can guess what happens next. It won't be good, but it'll be expected. Demons are chaos personified. You have no idea how they'll react. The only rule they respect is the rule of force, and they ignore that half the time. Keep in mind that they are just as much evil as they are chaotic. Quote, they delight in showing cruelty to the weak and helpless. They take a perverse pleasure in the torture of the body and the brain alike. Passionate and burning, all of their energies geared towards satisfying their most hateful and selfish urges. They jump at the chance for brutality, whether it's plucking the wings from flies or dunking a Burke in a pool of caustic spittle. End quote. They are random and chaotic. You can't count on them to uphold a deal. But they could. They might uphold their end of the deal, giving you what you asked for in the most literal sense, but in a way that you didn't want, screwing you over in the process while technically keeping their word. Sounds like something a Batazu would do, doesn't it? That's exactly my point. They're unpredictable. There's always an exception, and if being an exception makes them do something you didn't expect, then that's exactly what a tanar'ri would do. 3rd edition describes the psyche of the demons as ferocity personified, and will attack any creature just for the sheer fun of it, even other demons. They enjoy terrifying their victims before slaying them, and often devour the slain. Many demons, not satisfied with their own iniquity, take pleasure in tempting mortals to become as depraved as they are. 4th edition drops the nuance and takes a much more straightforward and, in my opinion, much more boring approach to demons. It says that demons are living engines of annihilation. They care nothing for plans or structure, they are not manipulators or schemers, nor are they tempters or bargain makers. They do not actively lure other creatures toward evil, they burn them alive or rip them to quivering shreds. All activities must serve the ultimate goal of sowing chaos and bloodshed. So as you can see, that's sort of inconsistent with the other editions. In all of the other ones, they do scheme, they do plan, they do tempt people. 4th edition's just taking a very straightforward approach, and I don't really like it. In 5th edition, it describes demons as possessing no compassion, empathy, or mercy. They exist only to destroy. Each demon believes that only its needs and desires matter. They have no affinity for their own kind. Every demon sees itself as the rightful inheritor of the cosmos. It is driven to destroy all other living creatures, or at least demand its absolute loyalty. Now, in order to completely talk about the psychology of demons, we need to discuss their opinions on the Blood War. So, most demons care little for the Blood War. They just want to elevate themselves and get whatever it is that they want. They value freedom and individuality, so working together to fight a war as part of a greater multiversal conflict isn't something that most would care about. However, many of the demon lords do care, and they use their power and strength to force the subservient demons under them to fight the lawful Batazu. To quote the demonologist Telson Splithorn, but the true tanar'ri aren't the be-all and end-all of the Abyss. Many lords of the layers weigh in on the issue as well. Some of them, like Sesenek, lock themselves away from the conflict entirely. Others, like Alvarez, scheme more against their fellows than against the Batazu. And still others, like Grazit, work to end the Blood War, at least temporarily, so that the tides of evil can unite and flow against the forces of good. Truth is, there are as many approaches to the Blood War as there are Abyssal Lords, and not one of them agrees with the others in all the particulars, much like the rest of the tanar'ri, really. End quote. Physiology. In 2nd edition, it says that it is a folly to assume the tanar'ri have any mutually defining characteristics. Their very nature defies definition. All tanar'ri can be different due to their chaotic nature. However, a clever blood can still understand a fiend's function by looking at it. For example, if it has sharp claws, horns, and teeth, then the fiend comes from a layer that encourages close-up fighting, preferably the kind that results in massive bloodshed and pain, or at least that the fiend itself believes those qualities to be worthwhile pursuits. You see, the demons adapt and evolve in order to survive the environment they're in, and each layer of the abyss has a unique and horrifically hostile environment for them, so every demon is going to be a little different, even ones of the same type. For example, not all Barguras are going to be the same. Not all Vroks are going to have the same physical characteristics. The ones in the monster manual are simply the most common ones or generalizations. However, we'll talk more on that on my next video on the hierarchy of the abyss. When it comes to physiology, 3rd edition actually has a little diagram of a dissected dretch, and it explains that their abdomen is mostly filled with a swirling, noxious black liquid that gives off a horrendous smell. There are a few small organs in there, but no bowels, intestines, or other digestive or excretory organs, which is strange because demons can eat tremendous amounts of food and excrete filth. So basically, their internal organs don't really make any sense, and they don't seem to serve a purpose. Gender. 2nd edition is the only edition that talks about demon gender, saying that demons take genders as they will. Some days they're male, some days they're female, some days they're neither, and some days they're both. They tend to stick to one as they grow older. Some people think this implies order or stability, but it is actually just another example of demons letting the strongest urge dominate. Procreation. 2nd edition states that most demons are formed from a petitioner that has turned into one and then promotes to stronger forms through sheer will. Some demons are the products of a demon and a mortal mating, like the Cambion and Alufiend. However, unlike devils, demons can mate with each other. Normally, the offspring is the same rank as the parents. If the two parents were different types, then they are somewhere in between, normally favoring the mother status since she's the one who births and influences it. Fortunately, most tanar'ri offspring are killed by their parents soon after birth. Some tanar'ric mothers carry a child for mere days before disgorging it, and others carry their babies to term over decades. As with everything else in the abyss, reproduction is a chaotic affair. 3rd edition simply says that demons can have sex if they choose to, although some lack the necessary equipment. Sustenance. 2nd edition says that tanar'ri eat meat, and that it tastes better when it is soaked in fear. They prefer alive victims that are screaming in horror. Some believe the tanar'ri gain nourishment from the fear itself instead of the meat. Others think tanar'ri don't need to eat but simply enjoy it. Either way, their dining habits follow no set pattern, and your guess is as good as mine. 3rd edition states that demons do not need to eat, but they can consume endless quantities of food with no effect or consequences. They do not have any sort of digestive tract. Their food seems to simply disappear after ingestion. 4th edition says that most demons eat flesh, favoring their meals still living. However, some consume plant life, minerals, or metals, and some consume elemental energy or magic to survive. Breathing. 3rd edition is the only one that talks about this and says that demons do need to breathe, but their lungs can withstand a range of environments, including the most deadly fumes of the abyss, which would kill most material plane creatures. So, demons can easily breathe in any natural material plane environment. Sleep. 2nd edition says demons are creatures of constant motion, moving with purposeless aim from one task to the next. They don't ever seem to stop. It is possible to catch one dozing, but never will you find one actually sleeping. Maybe they're always in a half state of asleep and awake, and that's why they act the way they do, never sure if they're in reality or a dream, but determined to wreak havoc in either. Or maybe their bizarre and chaotic behavior is a result of insanity brought on by insomnia. In 3rd edition, demons do not need to sleep. They can choose to do so for deceitful purposes, but gain nothing from it. However, powerful individuals have been known to force demons into sleep-like trances, and they can be rendered unconscious. 4th edition says that demons rarely sleep unless compelled to by magic, poison, or other external influences. Now let's talk about the powers of demons. What can they do, what can they not do, etc. So in terms of abilities, 2nd edition says that tanar'ri have significantly less standard powers than the Batazu. However, demons are not standardized creatures, and so most of their abilities are unique ones from their individual forms, and not standardized across the whole species. The only two abilities that all demons have in 2nd edition is the ability to see in the dark and create darkness. They also have the teleport without error spell at will, but that power was taken away from them by the Yugoloths. If you're interested in that story, you can find it explained in my video on devils. In 3rd edition, it says that demons have more abilities than they need, but most of these are unique and vary from demon to demon. In terms of standard powers, the main one is demonic possession. Some fiends, ones with 4 hit dice or higher and a charisma of 13 or higher, can possess creatures and objects. When they do so, they send out an incorporeal form, but their corporeal body remains vulnerable the entire time. And this incorporeal form they send out can only go to either the same plane they're in or the ethereal plane. While in the ethereal, it's invisible, but while in any other plane, you can see its ghostly duplicate. There's actually 6 pages of rules on demonic possession in 3rd edition, so I'm not going to get into the details, but if you want super specific 3rd edition rules, you can find it in the Fiendish Codex 1. In 4th edition, only cacodemons can possess, and these are demons who died, but their soul still lingers for a short period of time. In 5th edition, a person who is possessed runs the risk of being dragged to the abyss if the demon is exorcised or if they die. In terms of how this happens, it seems pretty rare. The monster manual says that demons who have been trapped in an object by powerful magic will oftentimes escape these objects by possessing a nearby creature. The Dungeon Master's Guide says that people who stay too long in the abyss and fail a DC 10 charisma saving throw are corrupted, and one of these corruptions, 10% chance, is demonic possession. However, that form of possession, the demon only takes control when you roll a 1 on a check or attack, and then you can repeat the save every 6 seconds. So realistically, it's not going to get to do much with your body. It doesn't seem like an ability that demons can choose to do. It's more of just a thing they can do in order to escape capture, or a natural thing that the abyss itself can inflict on people who are there, but it's not something that any demon can just choose to do. At least that's the implication that I got from reading 5th edition books. And then in all edition, demons can summon other demons just like devils can. Resistances. Now, keep in mind, no 2 demons are exactly the same, and only a fool would expect this list to apply to all of them. In 1st edition, they are resistant to cold, lightning, magical fire, and poison gas, and they are immune to silvered weapons. And then type 4 and higher demons are not affected by non-magical weapons. In 2nd edition, most tanar'ri are resistant from magical fire, cold, and poison gas, and are immune to non-magical fire, poison, and lightning, and then the more powerful demons will require magical weapons or cold wrought iron weapons to hurt them. In 3rd edition, demons are immune to poison and lightning, and they are resistant to acid, cold, and fire, with a DR of 10, so every time they take that damage type, it's reduced by 10. In 4th edition, demons have variable resistance, meaning that once per encounter, they can choose one elemental damage type to be resistant to for the rest of the encounter, in order to represent their chaotic and adaptive nature. Usually this was 10 or 20 damage reduction. Only the Baelor had 40 fire resistance in addition to 20 variable resistance. Every other demon just had the variable. In 5th edition, they are immune to poison, and then they are resistant to cold, fire, lightning, and then most of them are resistant to non-magical weapons. Limitations. According to 1st edition, demons can move from the Abyss to Tartarus, also called Carcery, Hades, Pandemonium, or the Astral. They cannot enter the material plane without aid, such as by conjuration, gate, or by speaking their true name. It doesn't mention the other planes, so I assume that means they can't enter them. However, it does say that demons frequently roam the astral and ethereal, so they can at least enter the ethereal. And then no other edition has any sort of limitations as to where in the cosmology they can go. Language. In 1st edition, they have telepathy. That's about all I could find. In 2nd edition, they also have telepathy, but it actually goes a lot more in depth into the language of the tanar'ri. So, according to 2E, demons are too chaotic and diverse to have drawn together a unifying racial language, so they've learned to project their thoughts between minds. When they use their mind speak ability, it projects a forceful mental shout that deafens the receiver's mind for a moment, much as a scream leaves a ringing in your ears. It doesn't harm the target, but it does let them know a tanar'ri wishes to speak to them. Lesser demons cannot express complex ideas and usually project symbols that are harsh and crude. Cannier fiends can learn to turn these symbols into intelligible concepts that non-tanar'ri can more easily understand. Sometimes these fiendish symbols can burn themselves into the receiver's mind, leaving him permanently scarred. Tanar'ri can speak verbally, and the ones that tend to deal with mortals, like cambions and alufiends, sometimes master mortal tongues, but usually their verbal communication just involves screaming for the sake of making noise. To quote the tanar'ri specialist Jesime Rausch, "To tell the truth, the tanar'ri are a deconstructionist dream. They don't ever fully understand the speech of another fiend, and it goes without saying that they're not fully understood either. When mortal scholars try to learn the tanar'ri language, they usually focus on the dialects of one or two of the chaotic fiends, but even then, it's a frustrating task. That may well be part of the reason the tanar'ri are so angry all the time. They're constantly and fundamentally misunderstood. That may also explain why the tanar'ri often resort to methods of communication that can't be misconstrued, like torture." End quote. In essence, there is a verbal language for the demons, but each individual demon will have their own words and meanings, making it pretty useless to try and learn since it will only be understood by that one fiend. 3rd edition introduces the abyssal language, the official language of demons. However, it gives no description of what it is like or how it came about. 4th edition adds the lore that abyssal is a version of primordial that was twisted by the evil at the heart of the abyss, since in 4th edition, the abyss was created from the elemental chaos. However, no real descriptions are given other than that it contains words of power, which are words whose syllables contain raw magic of primordial evil and can unleash powerful effects when said or inscribed in tomes. In 5th edition, it uses abyssal as well, but once again, there's no description of what it's like or how it came to be. In 3rd and 5th edition, it uses the infernal script, while in 4th edition, it uses the Barazad alphabet, which is the primordial script. So personally, I get that they wanted demons to have their own language, since like every outsider race has their own language, but given how chaotic they are, I don't think it makes a ton of sense for their entire diverse species to have one standardized language. That, and there's almost no lore or info given for Abyssal. As a dungeon master, I will probably be sticking with the 2nd edition lore when it comes to my own home games. Maybe Abyssal exists in the sense that some demons do form their own words to communicate, but even among demons it's barely if ever understood. Many scholars might try to learn Abyssal or claim that they know it, but truly it's impossible because it's not a standardized or even a real language. Destruction. 1st edition, demons of type 5 and above are not truly killed when slain outside their home plane, but reform in the abyss and forced to remain there until a century has passed or until another aids it to go forth again. If killed in the abyss, they're dead forever, unless they crafted a demon amulet, in which case they can reform. In 2nd edition, if a tanar'ri dies in the abyss, it is dead forever, no exceptions. It is sucked back into the heart of the plane and spit out again as a main or other lesser creature. The pull of the abyss is too strong for them to reform. Least, lesser, and even greater tanar'ri that die outside the abyss are also dead forever. They cannot find their way back to the plane and do not have the willpower to reform even if they did make it back. Only true tanar'ri reform when killed outside the abyss, and it takes 100 years for them to do so. The white-hot anger of the dead tanar'ri must reshape its individual form out of the churning mass of hatred that is the abyss, and hold on to its desire for life during this whole time. If it falters, it is lost forever. Some don't believe this though, and assume all tanar'ri reform as mains when killed outside the abyss. In 3rd edition, if killed outside the abyss, a demon's raw essence falls back into the chaos of the abyss, where it is then reformed as a new demon. No one is sure if they have to start the cycle over again, but death is seen as a failure, so it is unlikely to go unpunished. Most likely they are demoted. The exception is when they are summoned magically. They return unharmed whether the spell ends or they are destroyed. Thus, they have nothing to fear when summoned to the material plane. A demon lord that is slain outside the abyss is banished back to the abyss for 100 years. If killed while within the abyss, a demon is permanently destroyed no matter what kind. When devils die outside their home plane, their body is turned into black ichor or sulfur. When demons die, it is unpredictable and never quite the same, but they usually don't stay in their form and rot like a normal creature would. Although them being chaotic entities, anything is possible, even the mundane. We know that when a Balor dies, it explodes in a blinding flash of light and flame that consumes the corpse, but for every other type of demon, it's completely random what happens when they die. This table from Fiendish Codex 1 has a few examples you can use. In 5th edition, all demons, no matter how powerful or how weak they are, killed outside the Abyss, instantly reform in the Abyss. Demons killed in the Abyss are killed forever unless they have a demon amulet that stores their essence, then they can reform. There is no mention of demotion upon death. Summoning. In 2nd edition, it states that tanar'ri like establishing footholds on the prime material to further their own power and agenda. They do it for themselves, for their sheer hateful pleasure. They do it to destroy and to build. They do it because they can. Tanar'ri aren't as vengeful as the Batazu or as malicious as the Yugoloths, but they're 6 times as dangerous. They only honor the raw power of the Conjurer and the strength of the wards in the magic circle. They hate being forced into servitude, but enjoy new experiences. If they can escape, they usually roam around the Prime, setting themselves up as gods to be feared. True tanar'ri can possess a mortal, and it is said they can experience much more sensation in this mortal form, so they gorge themselves on experiences, not caring about how the body is treated, eventually leaving the mortal feeling violated in the most profound manner possible. It takes a true name to summon a tanar'ri. Without it, you'll end up summoning a Bulazau or an Armanite instead. Some Baylords looking to gain power and ascend to Lord status intentionally spread their names throughout the Prime, hoping to be summoned and develop a base of worship. They strike deals with mortals and uphold their end of the deal in order to gain popularity and a good reputation, gathering followers and power. Then, when they have gained enough power, well, they care much less about their deals. Some Baylords have their names spread by enemies so that they might be summoned at the most inconvenient of times. It is not uncommon for demons to make books of demon summoning that teach how to summon them, but do not bind them, allowing them to retain their freedom. In 3rd edition, the Gate spell can call a demon and helps the caster control it. Fiends practice deception and betrayal as part of life, so an overly ambitious spellcaster could fail to control it and end up with a demon on the loose. Lesser spellcasters, usually demonic cultists, rely on complex rituals, fiendish artifacts, and living sapient sacrifices to call demons to their service. They are usually not powerful enough to control it, but demons usually play along with those that allow them access to the material plane, as long as what they are asked to do are things they would want to do anyway, such as kill, maim, destroy, or corrupt. Once it grows bored, however, it will act independently and betray its master. Now, 3rd edition makes a point to differentiate between calling and summoning. So, a summon monster spell or similar summoning magic temporarily summons the fiend to the material plane. It will always return to the Abyss unharmed at the end of the duration, even if it was destroyed. It can also be prematurely sent back with a dispel magic or similar spell. Calling a demon usually involves a ritual and it permanently transplants the creature onto the plane. Only a powerful spell such as banishment can send it back to the Abyss. In 4th edition, there is a ritual spell called Summon Demon. You must call a specific demon and then pass a check. Failing the check means it's still aware of the summons but can choose to send an underling instead. You can then bargain with the demon to ask for something you want, but it will want something in return. This usually requires a skill challenge. Failing the skill challenge, the demon might physically manifest at your location and start a fight. If you use the demon's true name, you do not need to undertake a skill challenge to bargain. In 5th edition, it says that demons love to sow chaos and destruction on the material plane, but they show no love to those who summon and demand favors from them. Even evil wizards who deal with devils freely fear the fiends of the Abyss. Demons must be magically forced to serve you, bound against their will. If one thing is done incorrectly, they will lash out on the one who attempted to enslave them first. The only ways to summon a demon that's been codified in the rules is the Summon Lesser and Summon Greater Demon spells in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which only lasts a minute and every 6 seconds has a chance to lose control, or the Gate spell, which does not bind them to service, they get to keep their free will. Now, the free will part of the Gate spell and the duration of the Summon Greater and Lesser Demon spells can be circumvented with a planar binding. Knowing the creature's true name has them make the save on Summon Greater Demon with disadvantage, although most demons have magic resistance, which cancels this out to a regular save, and then they still get to attempt the save every 6 seconds, so yeah, true names are really weak in 5th edition, even though the flavor text makes it seem like knowing a fiend's true name is like this really big deal. Gate doesn't say anything about true names, but a good DM can and should allow it to do something. Portals. So 3rd edition states that sometimes portals can leak between planes. Abyssal portals usually form in places that have seen great evil, destruction, or cataclysms, or possibly in secluded, hidden areas where evil can grow and thrive. The use of evil artifacts, performance of gruesome sacrifices, and the destruction of nearby good and lawful elements all attract demons to these portals. Closing a portal is usually a matter of destroying the demons that came through it and sanctifying the area. However, the fiends using it take measures to keep it open, such as recruiting mortals with the promise of power. Sometimes they build powerful keys and use them to lock the portal open. Only by finding and destroying the keys can the player characters close the door. 5th edition probably has the most detail on these demonic portals, explaining the 4 phases of demonic corruption on a world. The first phase is the initial infection. If demons stay in the same area on the material plane, roughly a 6-mile square, for a long period of time, for weaker demons this could be years, and for a demon lord it would only be a month, their presence warps the environment to be more like the abyss. Plants become twisted versions of themselves, weather becomes chaotic and nonsensical, and living creatures flee or are killed by demons. If this lasts long enough, a portal to a random spot in the abyss opens up, beginning phase 2. Since the abyss is an infinite chaotic plane, most of the time this leads to a desolate, uninhabited place, but eventually more and more demons will find it and go through, accelerating the demonic corruption. If the invaders are reduced to half the number that were present when the portal was created, the opening closes. It is very unlikely for it to progress past this point, since demons will likely fight amongst themselves and spread out too far for this corruption to sustain. But if a strong demon unites them by force, and no one intervenes, it will progress to phase 3. The environmental hazards get even stronger and more lethal. The corrupted region grows and spreads, and groups of demons go to other places to conquer and possibly start another incursion, creating a network of these portals. Killing demons is no longer enough to destroy the portal. All demons must be destroyed, the portal must be closely watched for the rest of time, and the land will remain twisted forever. The 4th and final phase is when a demon lord enters the portal. He exerts his will over all the demons, banding together and wreaking havoc on the world. If this demon lord is not defeated, this invasion will irrevocably alter the world. No vestige of it will remain, and it will become another layer of the abyss. I really like the idea of entire planets just becoming a layer in the abyss. There's a lot you can do with that as a DM. Next up with demon summoning, we have to talk about demon amulets. So in 1st edition, demon lords and princes maintain their souls in small containers. Demons with these amulets can cast magic jar once per day. Demons' amulets cannot be detected as such by any magical means or appear unusual in any way. Someone who possesses an amulet gets power over the demon it belongs to for one adventure, but never more than a day. Afterward, the amulet must be returned to the demon or destroyed, banishing them for 1 year. Possessing a demon's amulet doubles the chances of calling the attention of another demon, and any demon not controlled by that amulet will immediately attack the person possessing it. If the amulet is put back in possession of the demon it controls, that demon will attack the previous wielder in its most effective fashion immediately, attempting his utmost to slay and then carry all that remains to his own domain, which means that the character is lost and gone forever, never being able to be resurrected. If the wielder of the amulet carefully repays the demon for aid rendered, adds a considerable sum for having the temerity to dare to command the demon in the first place, and then carefully restores the amulet to the demon, the prince might not bear him a grudge forever afterwards, nor seek to hunt him out whenever possible. So demons can be reasonable if they feel like it. In 5th edition, powerful demons intentionally create their own demon amulets by locking away a part of their life essence in them. This allows them to come back to life if they are slain in the abyss. A person who obtains a demon amulet can force the demon to do things for them or inflict great pain if they refuse. If a demon amulet is destroyed, the demon it belonged to is trapped in the abyss for a year and a day. So it's basically the same as 1st edition, except 1st edition had the limitation that when you ask a demon to do something, they can only do they can only help with one adventure, and it can't last more than a day. Afterward, you have to give it back or destroy it. 5th edition doesn't seem to have that limitation. It seems like you could hold on to it forever. But yeah, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th edition, I couldn't find any mention of demon amulets. To close out the summoning section, we need to discuss the ethereal. So it is said in 1st edition that demons like to roam the ethereal plane, and that while in an ethereal state, if you speak the name of a particularly powerful demon, there is a 5% chance it hears and turns its attention to you. Unless prepared to avoid such attention or control the demon will immediately kill by whatever means are most expeditious the one pronouncing its name. Culture. Now, this section on demonic culture, everything in it is from the 2nd edition book, Faces of Evil, The Fiends. Because no other edition really talks about demon culture, what they're like, what they do, what kind of art they create, stuff like that. There's like one sentence from the 4th edition Demonomicon that's relevant, but everything else in the video from this point on is from 2nd edition. So what is demonic culture? Demons are chaotic, so understanding their culture is rather difficult. Just remember one word: adapt. Where a Batazu will have thought out a plan that they'll stick to no matter what, the tanar'ri might have a plan, but alter it or throw it out the window the second things change, and things always change in the Abyss. They are always changing and adapting to the situation at hand. They evolve to the forms they currently hold in order to survive the harsh environment of whatever layer of the Abyss they have lived in. Demons are creatures of chaos, mutable and forever adapting to their environment. Any demon with intelligence thinks they know the answer to existence, the real meaning of life, and they try to teach by example through their personal torment and experience. Character. Demons are evil bastards that delight in pain and suffering. They love devouring people alive, wearing their skins, and other unspeakable acts. Some believe they lash out like this because they're wary of being repressed by tougher fiends. See, that's why demons fight to get to the top of the chain and become a demon prince. Because then they don't have to take orders from anyone. Tanar'ri are individuals, and they fight with such ferocity because they're upholding their personal visions. The only time they follow a leader is if that leader is stronger than them and threatens annihilation if they disobey. The Batazu fight because they're supposed to, because that is their duty decreed by Asmodeus. Even the archdukes are bound to duty and obedience. Even Asmodeus isn't free, because he is bound by the Pact Primeval he signed with the lawful gods, and even he can't leave hell. The demon princes are truly free. They can do whatever they want and listen to no one. That's the one redeeming quality about the Abyss. Art. Tanar'ri art is extraordinarily interesting. It is almost always disturbing and thought-provoking. It mirrors their chaotic lives and therefore is unpredictable, jagged, hard, soft, flowing, clean, and messy all at the same time. It's a mixture of jarring contrast where the audience expects smooth transition, and a mixture of jarring contrast where the audience expects jarring contrast. Their art is beyond definition, but it is always very, very interesting. Some notable works are Into the Dread Styx, an epic poem written by the Cambion Allistar, a moving testament to loyalty, betrayal, and loss, and then a series of cameos painted by the Nalfeshni judge Kixit of the mortal petitioners brought before her. Society. The tanar'ri have no society, at least not one that spans the whole plane. The Batazu are united under a single principle, while the tanar'ric instinct encourages divisiveness and chaos by its very nature, and the imposition of a single society goes against every drop of blood the tanar'ri possess. Sure, they have small kingdoms and fiefdoms spanning entire layers, but there will never be one abyssal ruler that conquers and unites the whole plane. They simply wouldn't allow that. Laws. The only laws in the Abyss are the tanar'ri themselves. Each individual makes up their own laws and enforces them however they can. They are each seeking its own way and its own truth or deceit. They each rebel against the higher powers and kick and kill until they can claim total freedom for themselves. They each act as their own judge, jury, and executioner. So that is the lore on demons throughout all 5 editions of Dungeons & Dragons. If you have any unanswered questions about demons, such as what are types 1 and 5 demons, what are lesser, greater, and true tanar'ri, what roles do each demon type play, how does a demon become a demon lord, how do souls become demons, what's the difference between a demon lord and a demon prince, then keep an eye out for my next video, which will cover the politics and hierarchy of the Abyss and answer all of those questions. After that, I will release a video on the Abyss itself, how magic works there, what's it like, and how it came to be. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me in my comments and I'll try my best to answer them. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and remember to subscribe to see more D&D related content.